Hey guys, what's up? This is Conni again from San Juan del Sur in Nicaragua, and today I want to share with you my experiences at the two Tony Robbins events that I've attended. My last one was last weekend, UPW Unleash the Power Within, and before that, in December of last year, I attended Date with Destiny. And because these two events and Tony Robbins as a person have been so incredibly life-changing for me, I wanted to make a video kind of explaining what UPW and Date with Destiny are about, what you can expect if you are thinking of attending, and kind of like my biggest learnings. So, let's get into it. Last weekend I was at UPW, Unleash the Power Within, in LA, and there were about 9,000 people. It was huge. But it doesn't really matter how many people are at those events because you have your own individual experience if you're open to it. So UPW is 4 days, Date with Destiny is 6 days. At both events you have very long days. So that can be anywhere from 12 to 15 hours, from 9 in the morning until 1 or 2 in the morning. It's very intense, but nevertheless, that's why it's so incredibly life-changing. It's a complete immersion, so to speak. Both of Tony's events were nothing that I'd ever experienced before. And I believe that's the case for most people that come to UPW or Date with Destiny. And they will definitely change your life if you really open yourself up to it and go all in, full commitment. So what are these events really about? They are really about identifying our patterns, our beliefs, our stories, our values, all our conditioning, and then looking at that and understanding the suffering that those beliefs and all that conditioning can cause us, and all that pain that we've gone through because of that. The aim of those 4 or 6 days, in either case, it's about breaking those patterns and installing a whole new blueprint from which to operate from. And Tony does this with amazing meditations and strategies and techniques that, I mean, he's just the master of NLP, and he does use a lot of NLP techniques. But above that, Tony gets you into states where change, where transformation is really possible. At Tony's events, there's a lot of dancing, a lot of singing and shouting, a lot of high-fiving, a lot of hugging. He really tries to engage the audience as much as possible, not just to keep all these thousands of people awake and engaged for 12 to 15 hours, but also the whole dancing thing, because it does take up a big part of the seminar, and it is a little bit like a rock concert, except it's 5 million times better. It's really that all this dancing can really put you in a kind of state of trance. I researched this, and he also talks about it a little bit. All this dancing really gets you from being in an alpha or beta state into a theta state. And in that state, you're way more accessible to transformation. He also pushes you really hard into a high energy state, and because in those states, that's where change, that's where you really can do the work. Apart from that, it's all really entertaining. He's very funny, he swears a lot, there's a lot of laughing. Yeah, you're never bored, you're never like on your watch and like, oh my god, time doesn't pass. It's incredible how fast 12 or 15 hours can pass because there's so much happening all the time. You don't have time to just sit there and scroll through your Facebook unless you're one of those people that are not really into it, that are skeptical, that are cynics, that are just not open to the experience. These kind of people, they tune out, and I've seen quite a few, especially at UPW, not as much, or actually not at all at Date with Destiny. People scrolling through their phones or coming super late and leaving early. You can just feel that they're not into the experience and they won't get the results. I personally, I went all in at both events. I gave my everything. I was 100% committed, and I got everything out that I wanted. It changed my life, and I have done a lot of stuff, but Tony Robbins events are extremely transformative if you're open to the experience. So here's what Unleash the Power Within looks like. So it's 4 days. Tony's actually only on stage for 2 of those days, day 1 and day 3. And those are actually the most intense days. They are very exhausting because he goes on and he really gets you to your limits in the best ways possible, but they really go down to your core, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and so they're very exhausting. Day 2 and 4 are not as exhausting, but they're equally awesome. Joseph is on stage. He's a really, really awesome guy. He's super funny and entertaining. He does an amazing job. And then also on Sunday, we had quite a few guest speakers on stage. For example, we had Dave Asprey. Maybe some of you know him from Bulletproof. He's an amazing guy. And a lot of other guys on stage giving talks. That was super cool. I really enjoyed that. And you also watched quite a few Tony videos. One of those reasons why Tony is not on stage the entire 4 days is mostly, as he explains it, his voice, because he's got major issues. Having done this for 30, 40 years, being on stage a lot, speaking 12 to 15 hours, and when he's on stage, he doesn't really leave the stage. You don't see him drinking, you don't see him eating, you don't really see him go into the bathroom or anything. He's on stage, he's talking the entire time. It's intense. So I guess over the years, and this guy is now in his late 50s, they had to kind of scale the time down that he's on stage. And for me personally, I didn't really care. I knew this before. I guess if you don't know this before and you think he's on stage for 4 days, you might be a bit disappointed. But like I said, Joseph and all the other speakers really make up for it, and you get just as much out of it. And on those 2 days that Tony is on stage, like I said, he gives his everything. This man is a machine. He's so committed, he's so into it, he's so passionate. I find him extremely inspiring. So what is the actual difference between UPW and Dead with Destiny? So I believe UPW is really the foundation. It really explains all the core concepts that you should know to then move on to Dead with Destiny. I did it the other way around. I would recommend doing UPW first and Dead with Destiny second. It's also what Tony recommends actually. And at Dead with Destiny, I believe about 80% of the people there had done UPW before. I was one of the very few that hadn't, and now having done UPW, I totally understand why. So it really builds the foundation, but it also doesn't go as deep. For one, it's only 4 days, and like I said, Tony's only on stage for 2 of those days. But with Dead with Destiny, it's 6 days, and Tony is on stage, maybe not all day, every day, but every day for at least a certain amount of time, and it's a lot more intense in all ways. You go even deeper into all the work that you do at UPW. So I would definitely recommend doing both. UPW is super powerful, and having done it now after Dead with Destiny, it really kind of cemented and manifested everything that I did at Dead with Destiny even harder. I went even deeper. Yeah, none is better or worse. They're both super amazing and kind of merge in with each other. So Dead with Destiny is definitely Tony's most intense program. And you can also tell, or I was able to tell, because at UPW in comparison to Dead with Destiny, people weren't as committed. And I'm only talking about the cheapest ticket range, because that's what I was in, because everything else was already sold out when I got my ticket. But those tickets were like $700 or $800 in comparison. The cheapest ticket for Dead with Destiny, I think, was like $5,000. And so just right there, there's a huge commitment gap, because investing $700 to and investing $5,000, that has a huge effect on how all in you go in those events. I was fully into every single minute at Dead with Destiny, and the same thing with UPW, but I felt like some people were kind of testing the waters with UPW. Maybe they hadn't done much personal development work before, and so they were kind of skeptical. There were people that were on their phone a lot, or just, you could just tell when people are just not as into it. If I was to give you advice, I would say, and if you have the money, go and get a more expensive ticket where you get better seating, because it also means that you will be surrounded by more committed people. And I would have done that. I would have gotten a more expensive ticket, for one, to be closer to the action, but also to be surrounded by more committed people. So here are a couple of my most important learnings, I guess. I mean, I have a full range, a full list. I've got so many notes and so many epiphanies and learnings, and just, yeah, in so many ways it just changed my life and the way I operate up here. But I just want to give you a little bit of an idea, I guess. So with this second event, I really went deeper into my limiting beliefs, and as much as I'd worked on them pretty hard at Dead with Destiny, there was a lot about rejection, abandonment, loneliness, that kind of stuff. At UPW, I realized, wow, okay, these guys are gone. They were literally gone. And I had observed this in the last few months since Dead with Destiny. Now at UPW, I saw, okay, wow, so this is layer work. So there is still some beliefs left, and that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people attend Tony's events more than once, is because you really, it's like an onion, you just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And so this time around, I saw that my beliefs that were still pretty active were, I'm not good enough. Oh man, see, now I have to think, because I guess Tony did such a good job with us that it's almost hard to remember what they were, because we then replaced them. There was about, I'm not good enough, I will never experience true lasting happiness, and one was I will be alone forever, or something like that. And as much as they might not seem like big deal to you, they're huge deal to me. And so I was finally able at UPW to let these go. They did the surface at Dead with Destiny, because at Dead with Destiny I needed to work on other beliefs, I needed to work on other shit. This time around I got to work on stuff that was super deep and just buried so hard. And I got to work on that and identify them, look at them, and then break that pattern, just kind of say goodbye to them and replace them with way more awesome stuff. And that was a huge game changer to me, mind-blowing. Just now, feeling the effects of that 5 days later is absolutely amazing. Another big insight that I had was energy is the key to everything. Our physiology, getting ourselves into a state of feeling energized and generally living an energy-rich life, which is the goal that I have for myself. I really understood, so many birds around. I just really understood what it actually means to act when you're in your peak state, when you act from a place where you have this amazing, fueled up energy in your body. And I figured out quite a few ways in how to implement certain techniques and strategies and ways to keep this energy up and high going forward, because it's not just about doing these 4 days or doing these 6 days events. It's not just a one-time thing. You have to then go out, and they help you in that. Tony helps you with that, to establish daily practices, daily rituals, to keep kind of training to keep your energies up, and to keep whatever was changed during those events, to keep doing the work. It doesn't just stop when you go home. Well, one huge big one also was the concept of raising your standards. I believe, especially in terms of relationships, I had very low standards. I accepted behavior, I accepted circumstances that now looking back should not have been acceptable. And so I feel like by raising my standards, I'm raising the bar so that my future partner can actually meet me there, which for me is an absolute game changer. And one last one is, Tony says this a lot, is that achievement or success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And I can definitely vouch for this, because I've been there, and I will tell you guys more about this very soon. I realize now just how much more important progress is and how much more important growth is, rather than actually achieving a goal. So that completely changed my perspective around, and I'm very grateful to have finally understood what fulfillment actually means to me, because I've been looking at it in all the wrong places, I feel like, for all these years. Alright, so these were a few of my learnings. There's many more. It goes a lot deeper actually, but this is just as much as I can explain in a video for now. There's a couple of things that I thought were not so cool during those events, especially at UPW. For one, there's quite a lot of pitching and upselling going on for other events and other programs. It didn't really bother me that much. Some other people were bothered by it more. I can just tell you, if it bothers you, just close your ears or like leave the room. But I don't think there's a reason to get all upset about it. But they do take up quite a bit of time and space during the event to upsell certain programs. And number two was, at this specific location, the food that they sold there was absolutely horrible. It was fast food, it was Coke, there was hardly any vegetarian or vegan food around, and that was even worse because we weren't able to bring our own foods. I don't understand how you can run an event like this and offer that kind of food, especially on day 4 of UPW. It's all about health and managing your energy and nutrition and exercise, and so that for me didn't really match up at all. I was also told that this was the first time they were doing it at that venue, and so things were not going as planned. Also at Dead with Destiny we were able to bring our own food, so I would go to Whole Foods in the morning and just get a lot of really healthy stuff and salads, and they were also selling more healthy food at Dead with Destiny in Florida. I believe food is super important, but on the other hand, Tony's on stage and he doesn't eat at all, and he's like just full of energy all day. So, and here's a little bit of advice. Number one, if you are considering going to one of Tony's events, you have to go in with a completely open mind. This is so important because if you're skeptical, if you are very judgmental, if you're not really open to the experience, you're not going to get anything out of this. You have to do basically everything that Tony tells you to do, and then you will get the results. And the results are amazing. It's not woo-woo, it's not weird stuff that he teaches, it's all very straightforward. He gives a lot of examples, he gives a lot of stories, he really makes it very clear what he talks about. He's very practical in his approach. If you go, commit to yourself that you will go all in during those 4 days, no matter what. Because otherwise, like I said, just forget about it. Like I mentioned before, I would pay more for better seating, but that's just me personally. People ask me how to prepare. I guess maybe a couple of tips here. You go out and read his books, get his own online programs, kind of get into that state of mind of Tony Robbins, also to see if you're actually into what he teaches. It's not for everybody, it's definitely not for everybody. Eat a lot of healthy food in the week or two before the event. It's really physically very exhausting and emotionally. Go and exercise, it should be a no-brainer. But if you go to his events, like I said, there's a lot of movement involved. So make sure you kind of prepare a little bit for that. And also, there won't be any time to do any work, so do your work before or do it after, but also take a little bit of time to integrate. Don't just dive straight back into work or your daily life at home. I would definitely take a couple of days to just let it all sink in, and then it'll take several weeks and maybe even months for it to really fully settle. It's not gonna be just like bam and everything changes. It's a bit of a process and you will feel it, and I could definitely feel with Date with Destiny that it was a process. It went on for about a month or two, to be honest. And lastly, stay present, stay focused. Fuck your phone, like don't check your phone, like it doesn't really matter what's going on outside of these walls where this takes place. Just be right there and you will have an amazing, life-changing, mind-blowing experience. So if you have any questions now about Tony's events, Date with Destiny or UPW, please put them in the comments and I'll try and make sure to get to them. Also, if you have been to any of his events, please do share your experience. I'd love to know. And otherwise, give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed my video and subscribe to my channel for more awesome stuff coming up. And I will see you in the next video. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.